In Cold Blood was a 1967 film that was directed by Richard Brooks. It was based on Truman Capote's 1966 nonfiction book of the same name. The film stars Robert Blake and Scott Wilson. They play the criminals Perry Smith and Dick Hickok and their evil connection with the Clutter family. You see it about 2 a.m. on November 15, 1959. In a small farming town called Holcomb, Kansas, 4 members of the Herb Clutter family were roused up out of their sleep. They were bound and gagged, and they saw their lives end by these 2 evil killers, Perry Smith and Dick Hickok. They first met in state prison, where the arrogant Dick picked out the quick-tempered Perry as his needed partner. Their robbery for the Clutter family was planned by Dick. This was all based on a former inmate that had told him that Mr. Clutter kept about $10,000 in a safe in his home. There was no safe, however, and the killers left with only $43. As the police, led by Alvin Dewey of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, attempt to solve this crime, the 2 fugitives cash a series of bad checks, and they make their way to Mexico, where Perry has dreams of becoming a gold prospector. But this plan, like most of Perry's fantasies, doesn't happen, and Dick insists that they return to the United States. The 2 are completely confident that they left no clues at the crime scene. But Dick's prison friend had already turned informer, and police had set up a dragnet set to catch these criminals. In time, the 2 are apprehended in Las Vegas, and they're subjected to intensive questioning, where their alibis start to fall apart. They're kept separated, and they start telling conflicting stories. Finally, the soles of their shoes match footprints that walk through Mr. Clutter's blood. Swiftly, they're brought to trial and convicted, and they're sentenced to be hanged at the Kansas State Penitentiary in Lansing. Following numerous appeals and stays of execution, they meet the gallows April 14, 1965. I've always been intrigued by this story. The fact that these 2 lowlifes can come into a family's life and completely disrupt it and snuff it out is just mind-boggling to me. When I first got into doing YouTube videos, I used to travel a bit, and I would do specific filming locations. One of the places that I went was Holcomb, Kansas, and filmed all the actual locations where the movie was shot at. I'm going to leave you a link in the description so that you can watch this video too. Now, the director of the movie, Brooks, was an acquaintance of Truman Capote, the book's author, and he was given early drafts of the book and really wanted the option to do a film version of it. He purchased the rights from Capote for an estimated $400,000. He went on to write the screenplay from this book, and he followed the structure of the book pretty closely, shifting between Smith and Hickok and the Clutter family. But there were a few slight details, not many, that were changed to make it a better Hollywood production. For the most part, this was pretty much the way it happened that dreadful night. The director wanted to deliberately cast unknown actors, or relatively unknown actors, but Columbia Pictures originally wanted Paul Newman and Steve McQueen to play the parts. But Brooks said absolutely not, that their star status wouldn't make their performances believable. Robert Blake was cast as Perry Smith in November of 1966. And Scott Wilson was cast as Hickok in January of '67. Blake was a popular child actor, and he had been in a lot of films, but he wasn't well known at all as an adult. The movie marked Scott Wilson's second feature and his first major role. Truman Capote was intrigued about this case from the start, and soon after the murders, he went to Kansas to cover the manhunt and to interview those that knew the Clutter family. After the apprehension and conviction of the killers, Capote became a major part of these 2 criminals' lives, forming an extremely close bond with Perry Smith. Smith ended up giving him most of his belongings, that being drawings and books, and Capote was present at the executions and witnessed the carrying out of Hickok's sentence. But he just couldn't bear to watch when it was done to Smith. He left the room before he was brought in. On the popular movie poster that you saw so often, the two pair of eyes that you see are those of the real killers, not the actors that portrayed them. There are two different scenes that Robert Blake's character makes a reference to the Treasure of the Sierra Madre from 1948. Blake played a paperboy which sold the winning lottery ticket to Humphrey Bogart in this classic movie. Most people think that this was written into the script because of the fact that he had played this part, but it wasn't. It was put in there because that was Perry Smith's favorite movie, and it's just a coincidence that Robert Blake starred in it too. When Perry Smith is summing up his life, the rain on the window is reflected on Robert Blake's face, so that it looks like he's shedding tears. This effect was noticed by many moviegoers, but it wasn't planned at all. The set was hot that day, and they had fans running while they were simulating the rain. It accidentally blew the water against the window, resulting in the shadows of the falling rain passing over Blake's face. So it really is one of those times where a mistake that happened in a shot was left in the film because it created a different emotion. The film was done in black and white during a time when everything was normally done in color. The director wanted it this way because he felt like that color would romanticize it too much. And this being such a bleak story, he didn't want to do that. This saved the shooting of the film quite a bit of money. Lee Marvin really wanted a role in this film. He wanted to play Alvin Dewey, but the director Richard Brooks gave it to John Forsythe instead. Brooks had worked with Marvin on an extremely successful movie in 1966 called The Professionals, but that's when he got his exposure to Lee Marvin, and he proved to be a handful on that set. So this director chose not to go that direction again. Now, Richard Brooks used some pretty sneaky tricks in getting this film to come across as dramatic and shocking. The actors never saw a completed screenplay. Instead, he would furnish them with bits of it, and along with that, actual crime scene photographs. And in order to give everything a really authentic feel, he did something unheard of. He filmed this entire movie in the location where the crimes happened, in the Clutter house. He also used the courtroom and had 6 of the people that were on the jury used as extras. The thought of pulling this off is just mind-boggling. It shook the actors that were doing it to their core. The family pictures that you see in the rooms of the house are all real photographs from the Clutter family. They even used Nancy Clutter's horse, Babe, in a few of the scenes. The one thing that was done on a soundstage was the shots of the penitentiary facilities and the gallows that were used. These scenes were shot at Columbia Studios. This adds a completely different twist to trying to shoot a movie. Number one, you had the problem of getting permission to use this crime location for the filming. That kind of stuff almost never happens. And then just the act of doing everything where these horrible crimes took place is pretty amazing. There were 2 other daughters of the Clutters that weren't present at the time of the crime. They were completely left out of the movie and the book because they were still so traumatized by the incident that they just couldn't go there. Both of them went on to live a very productive life, and both of them just recently died over the past 10 years or so. But they shied away from doing any interviews about the film or the events that occurred that night. This is a great movie to watch. It's well done with great cinematography, and it achieves the point it's trying to do by telling this bleak story. Take a look back at this well-done film. It'll shake you up. It will make you realize that there really is true evil out there. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.